Welcome, everyone, to another explainer made by Forge College. Today's lesson is measuring compute units and real transaction costs. If you caught our previous lesson on compute unit basics and Solana cost models, you know we've been wandering deep in the theoretical weeds of the EVM to SVM transition. But, well, theory is really only half the battle, right? Today, we're stepping completely out of the classroom and walking straight into the lab. We're going to draft a real, practical engineering blueprint for measuring Solana transaction costs. And the absolute best part, we're going to do it without burning a single drop of your own actual money. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll quickly look at the cost measurement problem, set up our local validator, build out a measurement script, jump into simulating and parsing, figure out how to isolate our fees, and finally wrap it all up with a clean final report. Let's kick things right off with Section 1, the cost measurement problem. You see, measuring theoretical consumption on a whiteboard is fine, but it's just not enough. On the flip side, testing your code optimizations directly in a production mainnet environment, yeah, that is a truly spectacular, chaotic way to lose all your funds. You've got unpredictable network congestion throwing off your numbers, and worst of all, you are literally burning real soul on every single test run. It's a nightmare. So instead, we use a local validator. This gives us a 100% reproducible lab environment. It strips away all that messy network noise, and honestly, the absolute best part is that the cost is strictly zero.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, setting up the validator.
Every good experiment needs the right tools, right? To get our lab set up, we're going to keep our logic perfectly organized into 3 essential Node.js files using the Solana Web3.js library. First up, we have transactiondemo.js. That's going to be our main script to build and simulate. Second is util.js, which will hold all our parsing helpers to extract compute units from the logs. And third, well, just our standard package.json manifest for dependencies. Super simple, totally modular. Okay, with our files ready to go, we need our network. If you pop open your terminal and run solana-test-validator, reset, quiet, you've just turned the master key to stripping away all that network variance we talked about. By the way, that reset flag is absolutely crucial. It gives us a totally clean slate for every session, which means no lingering, messy state from yesterday's experiments is going to pollute today's data. Which brings us to Section 3, building the measurement script. So how do we actually capture data without causing accidental side effects? Well, we use our secret weapon, which is called simulateTransaction. This is an incredibly powerful RPC method. It captures the full runtime logs and gives us the exact compute accounting, all without committing a single thing to the ledger. You literally get to run your code, see the exact compute footprint, and you don't pay a single LAN port for the privilege. It's kind of like magic. But to measure everything perfectly, especially things like priority fees, we need one more tool in our belt, the compute budget instruction. Basically, this is an explicit request you tack onto your transaction when you want a specific compute unit limit, or if you need to attach an additional priority fee. If we want to monitor any attached priority fees later down the line, we have to intentionally include this instruction when we build our transaction, and we definitely have to decode it when we analyze the results. Let's keep rolling into Section 4, simulating and parsing logs. Now let's look at how this all comes together across 4 beautifully simple steps. Step 1, we connect to our local validator and just airdrop ourselves some test sol. Easy. Step 2, we construct our transaction, making absolutely sure we include that compute budget instruction we just talked about, right alongside the actual code we're testing. Step 3, we fire off simulateTransaction. And finally, Step 4, we parse the runtime logs that get returned to us. And honestly, parsing those logs is kind of like a treasure hunt. During the simulation, the runtime is just spitting out log lines. We use a really simple regex tool in our util.js file to hunt down one exact phrase, which looks like this: consumed X of Y compute units. Finding this specific string and pulling out the number is exactly how we get our true, undeniable compute cost. No guesswork at all, just hard data straight from the validator's mouth. Up next is Section 5, isolating fees and rent. Now, here is an absolutely crucial question for you. How do we separate a pure network execution fee from a state rent deposit? Confusing these two is a classic developer trap. Because look, if you only check the total change in your wallet balance, you might literally have a minor heart attack, thinking your code is astronomically expensive, when in reality, you probably just made a massive, totally refundable rent deposit for a new account. So, let's map out the solution. What we do is compare the meta.fee against the balance deltas. Whenever you run a transaction, the metadata gives you meta.fee. That number is your pure, unadulterated execution cost, which includes base and priority fees. Now, to find the rent, you just subtract your post balances from your pre-balances. Comparing those pre- and post balances against that explicit metadata fee perfectly isolates the pure execution costs from the rent deposits. Trust me on this. Always, always separate these in your mind and in your code. Almost at the finish line, Section 6, Reviewing the Final Report. For our script to actually be useful, it needs to output a clean, standardized JSON object for every single test. We're going to need a few specific things: the raw compute units, the transaction fee lamb ports, the detected additional fee lamb ports totally isolated out, the rent deposit lamb ports shown completely separately, and finally a logs excerpt just for a quick sanity check. Doing this turns a basic, simple script into an incredibly powerful optimization tool.
But look, running this once is just a fluke. Twice? That's a coincidence. 3 times. Now that is data. To actually prove our engineering rigor, we have to run this script a minimum of 3 times. If you reset your local validator and run the exact same test 3 times, your compute units should remain strictly consistent. A tiny bit of minor jitter is totally fine, but if you're seeing wild swings, that means your parsing logic is broken or your state isn't nearly as clean as you thought it was.
And that brings us to our conclusion and next steps. Let's just quickly reiterate the core mantra of this entire explainer. Simulate, parse, report, and repeat. We simulate to avoid stateful side effects. We parse the logs with laser precision. We report by isolating the rent from the network fee. And we repeat the whole thing to guarantee reproducibility. I'm telling you, this is the exact step-by-step workflow professional Solana developers use when they're gearing up for heavy optimization.
Which leaves me with one final thought to throw your way. Now that you've got these exact baseline metrics dialed in, how drastically can you optimize your code to drive those numbers down? That right there is the true challenge, and honestly, it's exactly what we're going to cover in our upcoming lessons. Remember, this explainer was brought to you by Forge College. I highly encourage you to head over to forge.college to continue your Web3 education, grab the code snippets from today, and dive even deeper into Solana optimization. Until next time, keep simulating, keep measuring, and I'll catch you in the next workshop.